All right, it's Pipes Drums back with Bruce Gandy, Jack Lee, Willie McCallum, and Iain Speirs, four of the top pipers in the world, and also four pipers who, like a lot of other elite pipers these days, are playing well into their 40s, their 50s, and even 60s. And maybe the sky's the limit as we go along. So we thought we'd take this part, comparisons to athletes and athletics. Athletes are playing longer. Are there parallels to what we do in piping and drumming, Jack Lee?
I think there are some parallels. I think some of the athletes that have had long, successful careers are people that we can learn from and probably do learn from. I'll give you an example. Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods has had tremendous highs and terrible lows in his astonishing career. But I recall Tiger Woods talking about his swing when he turned 30. And I recall Tiger Woods talking about his swing when he turned 40 and how the body has changed and he had to alter his swing. And if he wasn't going to alter his swing, career was over. Basically, that was what he was saying. And I thought, whoa, that's powerful information. And then I recall him talking about the courses of the world, the great courses of the world. And he is such a student of the game of golf. Oh my goodness. He takes it very, very seriously. And then I remember as a young professional seeing Bill Livingston, and I always admired how professional Bill is and was. It's just incredible. I just never recall him arriving unprepared for a competition. So I think we can learn from athletes and pipers that have gone before us in regards to being serious and prepared and organized and things like that.
Yeah, let's pick up that thread there, Bruce. Tiger Woods, golfers, athletes of all kinds, all genres. You applying some of that thinking to your own piping career?
Absolutely. I try to think on all occasions. If we can figure out what someone did wrong, that's always easy. But I always find figure out what they did right and how they did it right and how they're managing. And I mean, I've read the golf books for a while, and Tiger enjoyed his knowledge of that. And I remember that actual one of those interviews where he talked about his swing, which got me thinking, okay, I got to do stuff with my own posture and make sure that I can be comfortable within my playing, so that something that's mechanical doesn't hopefully hurt my physical and mental ability to play. And that's why we're always all trying out the different pieces and stuff. And then golf for me, Gary Players, he's the guy, and he was well known as the first certainly the first golfer to go and do calisthenics and get a trainer and do all these things, and you watch him hit a ball at 84 years old and you're going, oh my geez, this is amazing. And I find that as inspiring. And so I then think of how is he doing that? He's keeping in shape. He's not doing anything over the top. He's eating better and he's keeping physically fit so that we can keep playing. So if the bagpipe's comfortable and the body's in reasonable shape, then we can do what Willie says, play physically longer on the instrument. And if we're not, when your reed's not right, I'm sure we all know you don't play very good because all your brain power is thinking about what's the matter with my D, how come I can't fix my F, all these things. But when you get it tucked in and the pipe's right, all of a sudden you have the ability to just play what you can play. So it's the instrument, it's the keeping in shape, it's all of that. And you do learn, I think, by comparing to athletes. I did a lot of study, reading and stuff on envisioning, and that's been one of my sort of things, just to get myself in the right headspace by watching golfers and weightlifters envision. And I was, some people think, oh, you're nuts, and I went, well, that's fine, but it kind of works for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting there. Willie McCallum, you're a big football fan, but do you, first of all, do you take inspiration from football players? And I want to also talk about, something Jack said and comparing to Tiger Woods and kind of changing, adapting as you go along. not sticking necessarily with the same thing that got you success when you were age 20. Have you adapted as you've gone along to the conditions of aging?
I'm not so sure about that. I think probably I tried to have a preparation that served me in the past. That's not to say you can't learn as you go along. To use the football analogy, I'll go back to one of my great football heroes, is Graham Souness, and he once cracked that once you start thinking you know it all in football, you might as well pack your boots away. And I've always used that in piping as well, because I think, well, there are people who stop learning and they stand still, and piping doesn't stand still. And you're never the same person you were the year before. So for me, it's preparation of the instrument and the technique. So the fingers are so important. If your fingers are not strong enough to go the distance, then you're not going to last. So if you're a middle distance runner, you need to be able to run 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters. If you're a piper that's playing in the big Marks of Spain reel at Oban, which is twice through the Marks of Spain reel, that's a tough order, and it's a tough order for a 20-year-old, but it's a tough order for a 60-year-old as well. So you need to be ready for that. You need to have done the prep, and I was lucky because one of my instructors and probably my biggest role model was Hugh McCallum, and Hugh didn't go anywhere unless he was 100% prepared. And often I've gone to competitions and thought to myself, well, if I'm not the best player here, at least I might be the best prepared, because I wouldn't want anyone else to be more prepared than me.
Really interesting, yeah. Iain Speirs, what are your thoughts? We know you're a football fan as well as a golfer. Preparation going into it like an athlete might?
Sort of. I mean, I'm terrible at golf. I'd love to be better at that. Maybe that's where I should spend a bit more time. I can't say I've ever really looked at athletics or golfing or football and made the comparison with piping, other than just to eat reasonably well. Bananas, for example, are something that athletes seem to use quite a lot, and I found that really helped me at piping competitions. So that was one thing. Stretching, I've mentioned already. I think some of the others have too. Just looking after the fingers, looking after the arms, looking after the tendons. Going for physio, another thing that athletes do. I remember probably look at most of us from behind and we're like that. We've got one shoulder higher than the other. And going and looking after your body is important. So, these are the things I've learned. And from a preparation perspective, not so much about looking at other sports, but just learning from other pipers. And over time, I think the thing I've learned most is how to be efficient with practice. Willie mentioned none of this mucking about with pipes. It's just getting them going and going through your tunes. That's probably what I've learned most over the last 20 years when I've gone for my lessons. I've been looking at teachers to inspire me. I'm trying to put all of that together just over time.
Yeah, that efficiency of practice, getting right down to business. It's seems to be a common thread with all four of you. Wanted to talk about, top flight pipers today seem to be better than ever. I mean, you put a finger wrong and you're out more than ever. That was always kind of the case, but instrument has to be perfect. Considering, your pipers, you guys playing longer, do you feel you're playing as well as you did at age 30 or let's say, or are you playing better than ever? Willie, start with you.
Some days maybe, yeah, you feel that, and then you think, am I just kidding myself on here? But yeah, I mean, there are some days I feel that the experience can count for a lot, and I think maybe you think differently about your music as time goes on. So there are days where I think, yeah, I'm playing better. I'm maybe playing better musically than I did. And I suppose when you get older, you just try and make sure that the technical side keeps up to go along with that experience.
Yeah, the technical side, Jack, think back to your, I believe it's 1980 when you first won the Silver Star at the Northern Meeting. Was that 81? 80?
81.
81, yeah.
81.
But, a virtuoso performance there. If you compare your playing today to what you did in 1981, what do you think? Are you playing at the same kind of level?
I think much like Willie, I think maybe in some ways yes, but in some ways it makes no sense that a 60-year-old can think he can play as well as they did when they were 20 and 30. I think that it's hard to envision that that's possible. But I think on the musical side, I think our love for the music, all of us here on this call and many other people, just grows through time. You love the music so much, and I think that comes out in your playing and with the pibrox, for example, and everything else as well. I think also we've all become better at analyzing problems, determining where, as Willie said, the technical things are coming into play that we need to solve. We're better at that. We took that much more for granted when we were younger. Now you can't take it for granted because the standard is so high. So it's ongoing. Do I think I'm playing better than? No, I don't think I am, but I'm enjoying it more, and I'm trying harder to play well than I did when I was in my 20s.
Yeah, that's love the frankness there. That's good. And Iain, you're a pupil of Donald McPherson. And Donald McPherson, we've talked about a little bit, played well to an advanced age. And the musicality of what he built throughout his career. Do you take inspiration from that as well?
Absolutely. I always have done. Loved Donald's playing, and I was very fortunate to go to see him for 12 years. I'm always amazed by his musicality. Just playing practice chanter, listening to him play, covering tunes with him, and then having the opportunity to hear him play it back and us work together on what he was trying to do. So very difficult to copy, actually. It just was something inherent in him, I think. My own experience, to answer your previous question, I think thinking about whether I'm better or worse than I was previously, I think I've had a lot more experience and a lot more teaching, which has helped, but probably musically better, technically not as good.
Mm-hmm. Would you echo those sentiments, Bruce?
I think all three guys are pretty well nailed it. We have days where the pipe's going good, the hands feel good, and you knock off a good Pibroch or a nice double MSR and go, geez, I wish that was Eden Court today because that one felt like it was good. And then we listen back to it sometimes and reassure, or go, I thought I was doing this, but I can learn from what I thought I was doing and what I actually just heard back. And it works really good that way. You just keep learning from it. I don't think I have an advantage over any of these guys, except that I do have in close contact with Alex, who is one of those young guys with, super steel hands, who will play the same MSR as me, I know without a flaw. But we also have good discussions about something that I've got into a lot, and I've just always called it perfect playing, which I hear a lot even at Obed and Inverness. And every note in the pipe's in tune, the drones are in tune with the chanter, but it's not that Roddy McLeod sound. There's something else to make the bagpipe better, and some of those guys get it. Some of the younger people don't always get that, but they don't know the difference yet. So I think that is where our advantage is. We've heard those sounds. We've heard that musicality come out a little bit more, and we'll have heated arguments about that. I'm like, that's much better, and this is why. And nope, but he did this, he did that. I said, I don't really care. This is why I think it's better, and hopefully, I think years of experience. So for me, I have to work hard. I'm really grateful that I'm still able to play, and grateful that I teach a lot. which helps me work on technical issues. You know, I'm sure the other guys know, you get to cover a lot of your technical work with your students when you're explaining something, how to do something to them. You invent an exercise and they go, I'll do that for a minute or two myself. To keep, I think there's plateaus all the time. That would be the main thing. And, you know, I'm not sure I can get better at technical stuff, but I'd hope to just not lose anymore. And I will adapt whatever way I have to, whether it means trying to open up a technique a little bit more so I'm not missing it, or whatever it takes, and hope that collectively we're all musically just a little more experienced at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to, just before we wrap up here in part two, you know, the conscientiousness of playing too long, you know, maybe just touch on that, you know, becoming that guy who sort of, you know, needs a tap on the shoulder or whatever we want to call it. You know, you see that in athletes all the time, you know, all walks of life, where people walk away from it when they're still right on top. Do you think about that? You know, just interested to get your quick thoughts about that. You know, you obviously, don't get us wrong, you've got many, many more years ahead of you, but just wondering, you know, how that plays into things. Iain, maybe start us off on that.
Yeah, I like to think I'd know when it's time to go. I haven't thought about it yet. And I suspect for me, one of two things will happen. Either I'll stop enjoying it, and maybe if I'm finding it difficult with the pipes or the work or the practice. I mean, that's a quick aside. That's what happened with my dad. My dad retired at 42. He had won the clasp, and I think work became difficult for him. And he just decided that he wasn't enjoying the practice anymore. So he stopped at 42, and he's regretted it. And he's always said to me, I wish I'd kept going. So I'm glad you are. And that's partly what's motivated me to keep going. But I also think I'm still enjoying it, hopefully still playing well. I'll stop when I think I'm missing things or making mistakes or not enjoying it. And I also think I enjoy playing against these guys. And when they retire, maybe I won't enjoy it as much. That might be the other reason to stop.
Interesting, yeah. Willie, what are your thoughts around that?
I remember when I was about 35 thinking, I wonder if I'm still going to be playing when I'm 40. And I think probably, if I was honest with myself at that time, I thought I wouldn't be. And there was no logic to that, really, because, you know, it was just something I had in my head. And then, you know, the years roll by and you're still doing it. I as I said at the start of part one, for me, it's the challenge every day of trying to be as good as I think I can be. Failing and keeping trying, and I enjoy that challenge. I also enjoy just the buzz of going up and playing, whether it's a recital or a concert or a competition. I love doing that. It gives you such a great sense of satisfaction when you get it right. And you know, we practice a lot. We spend a lot of time on the bagpipe, the technique, the music, and when it all comes good pretty well on one day, there's nothing to beat that. And so, you know, I think probably that's the thing. I enjoy that challenge. When I stop enjoying that, or I think I'm going to be going up and wasting my time, then it's going to be one of these two factors, I think, for me. Yeah, I think I would know when to chuck it. And people have asked me that before, and I've said, I don't know when it will be. It might be next week, or it might be in 5 years' time. Who knows? You know, I think these are questions we don't know the answer to until it happens. But yeah, I think it's just a great pursuit to be involved in. I love doing it. I love competing against. Well, you've got three of the great players here, so just having a bit of crack, and yeah, it's great to be involved in it. When you stop playing, the alternative is usually judging, and it's not a thing that, you know, really interests me as a doing that all the time. I like doing it, but for me, I have so many students that I would try and avoid the judging side of it. So maybe that's another reason to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jack and Bruce, it occurs to me that, you both have very, very good pipers as kids. They're not kids anymore, but do you look to them for a little bit of kind of, third party advice and keep you on your toes? And would you trust them to tell you true? Bruce, maybe what would Alex, would you look to Alex for that?
I would, to a certain degree. I mean, I do ask them to come over even when I'm getting ready for contests and say, come and have a listen. One, I can trust what you're going to tell me, and two, it puts a little bit of heat on the practice as well as preparation. Again, I'd like to think if I'm really losing it, then I'd know to chuck it. But there's different stages of that as I'm listening to everyone talk here. Is it a few technical things that aren't quite as good anymore where you can still say, oh, that's a shame, but geez, what a nice player. And I'm really liking that. And if I still have that, I would quite happily play on for longer. And, and Jack and I talk about this almost every year. You still going to play? Oh, yeah. Still going to play? Oh, yeah. And I keep saying, well, Jack's playing. I got to keep playing. So I can't stop before him, just as a joke. But it is really, it's still a lot of fun. And we just finished a talk at MSA about it. And we were both really in agreement that a result in a contest, that's just proof that the work that you put into it and you equaled it and, you scored well. But it's nothing to do with the journey of getting yourself onto that platform, which is the total buzz of it all. Whether it's that or, you know what, I take playing a head table just pretty much as serious as that if I get called to do a gig, because you don't know who's there. And after reading a few books, I actually take those gigs almost more seriously now, because the paying public who doesn't know, as you said years ago, busking being the best profession, because people will listen to you, and if they like you, they pay you. If they don't, you're out. And it's really, when you're doing a recital, it's not about a prize. It's, you want these people to like you. And so I take that almost more serious than a contest. When I screw up a contest, okay, I'll enter somewhere else and try again. But I don't want to do it, and I enjoy it when people smile. That's just the best feeling. And you've got them working with you, and they're playing, and everybody's doing this or something. That's just fantastic. I
Yeah.
don't want to give it up.
And Jack, what about you? Do you take advice from others? Do you listen back to your playing all the time? How do you make sure that you're playing to the standard you want to?
I definitely record and play back. I'm tucked away here in Vancouver, and just like Bruce is in Halifax, so we're just a fair ways from Scotland, and it's difficult always to get good feedback and whatnot. However, I play the tape recorder regularly and play it back and try to critique myself. Before the Glenfiddich this past year, I had a session with Andrew, my eldest son, and Zeph and Nickel, who works here with us full time, and they were scratching down notes and things I could work on. I think that was just superb. I want to tell you just a very quick story, and it involves Iain Speirs' father, Tom Speirs, who is a great piper and a very fine person. But Tom told me that story about how he retired when he was 42. I recall being in my mid 40s and being at the Glenfiddich and being kind of a low ebb at the banquet, because I had had a bad day. I did not play well, and I was at that point. Oh man, maybe I should retire, and maybe it's time to retire. And Tom was very kind and kind of inspired me to keep going, and relayed his story about his early retirement, which he regretted, and he impressed upon me that I had many more years left in me, and I should, take a bit of a break and come back hard. And by the time my plane arrived back in Vancouver, I had turned the corner, and I was ready to really get back at it. So sometimes just a few words from the right person at the right time will inspire you to go on. And certainly words from Tom Speirs really inspired me.
Yeah, well, that's great that Tom said that to you, and we're all the better for it, for sure. Terrific. So we'll wrap up the second part now, and part three, we'll talk about a little bit of advice and you're looking to the future and how long you think it might be able to last.